Hey, how you doing? Duff here. This was from Saturday. I was unsure if I wanted to do a video or not, so I just kind of half-assed recorded some stuff. That's me demonstrating how my extruder lever arm is worn. We're going to be talking about doing that, and we're going to be talking about replacing the auto leveling sensor with an inductive model. Stay tuned. Okay, so I've just gotten done with a upgrade for the automatic leveling sensor. I took out the capacitive sensor that comes with the CR10S Pro and I installed an inductive one. I followed a video by Nexitech as far as the instructions to do so. I'll link that down below. It's a pretty simple process though. You're just putting this in, and then I cut the wire. That's with the factory. With the factory sensor right here, and I spliced it into my new sensor so I could use the existing connector. It plugs in underneath here. You just take this metal cover off. There's 3 screws, 1, 2, 3, one underneath. Take that off, you get access to the connector. One word of warning when you're doing that: when I pulled the connector off, I accidentally pulled the fitting off of the PC board itself. So I had the connector and the fitting in my hand. So when I went to put it back on, I was all confused as far as where it goes, because I couldn't find the right connector, and the connector was sitting attached to the wire. So yeah, just be careful that you only disconnect it and don't pull the whole thing off the board. So I still have to configure that, test it. But the other thing I'm doing is working on another problem that the 10S Pros have an issue with, and that's with the extruder arm. Okay, right here is, let's back this out. This is the arm that was on the printer. And if you see down here, no, it's not designed that way. It's that worn. That area got all ground out by this gear here. And the reason is it's not, from the factory, it's not designed to seat well. And what I found really amazing is I found a video about this online, and it said when you pull this bearing or this gear off, there's supposed to be 2 of these cage nut bearings inside, you know, that allow it to spin freely. For whatever reason, my printer only had 1 cage nut bearing in it. So it was even worse than normal. I mean, it was sloppy up and down, wobbling. And the end result of that is you have inconsistent feeding of filament, and you can get under extrusion, you know, because it's slipping, all kinds of crap like that. So yeah, that's pretty shitty. I was trying to find out. I got a replacement arm from Tiny Machines, which I'll talk about in a little bit. I'm going to be putting this on. And I asked them if they had any more cage nut bearings, and they said they did not. So I actually ordered a whole new extruder arm and bearings and gear kit from Amazon. Got this in one day. There's all kinds of parts in here, but I actually only need this. I only need the drive gear here, so that's all I'll be using. But that should get me back up and going, so we're going to start on that part of the process now. Okay, so to illustrate the difference of the factory arm versus what Tiny Machines has done, like I said, here is the factory arm. You can see it's worn down from the gear grinding on it. If you look at the new one I got from Tiny Machines, this is machined out to give additional clearance on the top and bottom. It's machined out, and then they include 2 brass washers, which are hard to see here, that you put on either end of it to allow that gear to stay secure, but also to spin freely without grinding these sections down here. It's going to spin on those brass washers. It's not going to grind into the aluminum here. So that is the general concept. So I'm going to work on putting it back together. All right, so that's a little surprising. The replacement set I have only has 1 cage nut bearing in it as well. So I'm wondering if from the factory that is the way it's supposed to be, only 1 cage nut bearing. the video that I watched, the guy had 2 of them in his gear, so I don't know if that was a change that Creality made later, putting a second cage nut bearing in there to maybe reduce some of the slop. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 1 cage nut bearing from the old one and my 1 from the new one, and I'm going to make one good one out of it. I'm going to put the 2 bearings in there. I have a little bit of grease I'm going to put in to make sure they're good and lubricated, and we'll roll with that. This is some bearing lube that, again, I bought off of Amazon, supposedly specifically for bearings. I'm just gonna kind of roll this around in my fingers. And I am going to use my new gear that I just got. All right, so just got to put the 2 cage nut bearings back in here. All right, there we go. And let's see. The new one came with this screw, but I think I'm going to stick with the old one, because this black one, because it is not threaded all the way up, so I think that will actually work better. This silver one is threaded all the way up, so that would cause additional wear over time, so we won't do that. So now the other thing I need to do is I need to get the brass washers out of here. This could take a little bit of finagling. They're stuck to the inside. Okay, there you go. See my little brass washers? I might just give them a dab of my lube as well. Can't hurt. A little dab will do you. All right, so I'm going to stick this down here. And let's see. So it needs to go like this. This could be a little challenging to pull off with my fingers. All right, so we're going to just stick this brass washer on top like that. Hope it stays. I had the other brass washer in place there. We're going to stick it in. We're going to hopefully get the screw through. Come on. Just got to get everything up there. Okay, there we go. And if we can get lined up in the bottom, we're golden. All right, that spins nice and easily, and it is... There's absolutely no slop there, and because of the area that's machined away, there is no way for that gear to make contact with the aluminum handle. So we're just going to tighten this up. You want it snug, but not so tight that it impedes. You don't want it so tight that it impedes the movement of the gear, obviously. Okay, when you just disassemble it, this screw and sleeve goes back in there. Oops, that's my old piece. You put it in your new piece. Okay, so that goes in there. And then this screw needs to be moved across. $25 from Tiny Machines. Now they do have an option where you can do a return option. So what they'll do is they'll take your old arm and they'll actually throw it on their lathe and they'll machine this and then they'll resell this. I just opted for the deal where you just keep your old piece, but it's half as much if you send it back. So it's up to you. I'll put a link to the spot in their store where I bought this from. All right, so I have that on now. Let's see. Sorry, the lighting's not better. Okay, so that's how the arm sits in there, like that. I need to screw this down first. All right, just to test this, I have a piece of filament here You want to make sure that everything is lined up, that the filament is lined up with this slot here. And that feels exactly like it should feel. All right, so next I need to reinstall the spring. This is what puts tension on the arm. So basically, here's your spring. That little piece goes in the one end. Spring goes over there. It works a lot better if you use the right kind of tool to turn it in. Okay. There we go. All right, that screw is how you adjust tension. So we'll see how that goes. That's easy to adjust. But that's basically it. That is back in. That is back in place. So now all that's left is for me to put it back on the bench over there, reinstall the filament, or the Bowden tube, and I'll be back with a wrap-up. I didn't even mention that, I don't know that you can tell from this angle or not, but that's a all-metal hot end. I installed that last weekend, actually. So I have been doing 3D projects, I just haven't necessarily been shooting videos on them. So the way you can tell that you have a inductive versus a capacitive sensor, detects anything that's next to it. An inductive sensor, like with the old setup, my finger would be triggering the sensor. With this one, it does not. It has to be a metal object, like this feeler gauge. See, it detects that. And what that does is that just gives you much more consistent performance from your leveling sensor. What I've noticed with the factory sensor is I'll do a print and it'll be fine, and I'll go to do another print the next time, and my level's off. It's very frustrating. So multiple people have said going with this inductive sensor is the way to eliminate that. So that is the point. So now I just have to adjust it. Okay, got filament reloaded. I have the sensor calibrated. One thing, if you look at the Nexitech video, he mentions using the plastic shim to set the height on the inductive sensor. And for me, at least, this was too thick. When the sensor was at this height, it was not detecting the bed. So I actually had to move the sensor down quite a bit more. It's only a few millimeters above the nozzle height right now. I don't think I have a, well, maybe I can show you that. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see if you can see it. It's close. It's a lot closer than in his video. And the reason was it would not detect until it got to that height. So you have to have it at whatever height it takes to detect the metal base plate underneath. Now, one reason that my results might be different than Nexi's is I have a third-party print surface on here. This is from Tiny Machines 3D as well. It's their PEI print surface, which has been giving me very good performance, but maybe it causes a little bit of interference for the inductive sensor, and that's why I have to have it closer to the bed to detect the aluminum base plate underneath. So I don't know. But so far, that first layer, that looks good. That looks real solid. The key is going to be how consistent my first layer is after making this change. And I also feel much better having the filament gear here changed out, or the guts of the filament gear, so I shouldn't be grinding that around anymore. It should not be wobbling around. I should get more consistent extrusion performance out of it, so that's a good thing as well. All right, so that's all I have for you for now. I apologize that you don't see a whole lot of 3D content coming out of my channel. I'm doing stuff, believe me. I have a total of 6 printers in here right now. I plan to get another Prusa printer in the not so distant future, so I'll have 7 printers in here. I actually made a modification to my hobby room down here where I dropped that shelf down, so I actually have room to put 3 printers underneath for future expansion, because my 3D EUC stands have been selling pretty consistently. I've had some very surprising growth with that, so I'm trying to plan for the future. So who knows, maybe you'll see some more 3D content in the future. We'll see. But anyways, if you found this video interesting, please give it a big thumbs up. If this is your first time visiting the channel, please consider subscribing. If you're going to subscribe, you might as well hit the notify bell, which is over here, I think somewhere, to notify you of future videos. And feel free to leave your comments, suggestions, ideas, and thoughts below. If you have a CR10S Pro, you might want to consider some of these modifications that I did. So far, the things that I've done to this printer is, like I said, I installed the micro Swiss all metal hot end. I did the fix to the extruder arm, and now the inductive sensor. The inductive sensor and the PEI sheet from Tiny Machines 3D. And I'll have links to all the stuff that I mentioned in the description below. So I hope you have a good weekend, and until next time, Duffman out.